always do find it interesting when we get presentations like Kevin's, because it does kind of put into perspective that what we do really has a lot less significance. So the plus side is when there is failure, when there is those elements that have to survive, the risk that we're taking on is significantly diminished, where the project doesn't go live, or in what we're going to talk about here, that you haven't maximized the benefits realization of your Earnix transformation. It is definitely on a different scale than dealing with COVID-19. Anyway, Brad Middleton. I have run many transformations. What I want to get at today for all of you is that we want to highlight the additional activities that are critical to fully realizing those benefits of your Earnix transformation. I think piece of technology is an important part, but there's a lot of other steps that are really going to help drive that benefit realization. We do also have the benefit today of having a much smaller audience than the main room. So I'm quite happy if you guys want to make it interactive. If there are questions, raise your hand as I go. I will stop at the end, but I'm more than happy to go as we go through this and engage. Who watches F1 here? Decent number of people. Awesome. Okay, I don't. So in full transparency, I'm going to use some analogies as we go. It may not reflect the accuracy for people that watch F1, so just kind of like baseline that we're just talking about cars going fast as the analogy of what we do, okay? So, but what I think is important, right? So imagine that we have a car. I spent 20 years driving a 2006 Toyota Corolla. Love the car. You go hand me an F1 car and you put it around and say, go around the track. Am I going to go faster? Let's assume I do. I'm aware that I probably can't drive an F1 car. I've done simulations, but let's assume you give me a faster car, I'm going to go faster. Am I going to go as fast around the track as Lewis Hamilton just because I have the same car as him? Absolutely not. Definitively not. Why? Well, when we look at what it takes, right? Earnix is a piece of tech. Earnix is handing you an F1. But when we look at what it's going to actually take to turn that F1 into a time trial lap, there's the extra components that we need to think about. First, we got to align the people and process. If I'm going to go drive a race car, I also need a proper pit crew. I need the team that's going to be able to support me. I need to look at the people that support me today are not going to be doing the same things they do in the future. When we look at the teams that you probably work with today, you've got pricing teams, rating teams, IT, data teams, all of that, they're not going to do what they do tomorrow, what they do today when you put in a new piece of tech. If you assume that, you're not going to realize the full benefit realization. What else can I do to maybe start to take this car a little faster? I can look at getting external support. If you give me enough time around a lap, lap over lap, I'll probably make improvements. But what's actually going to help me accelerate the speed of which I'm going to learn? Coaches, experts, people that are specialized in understanding what to do in this space. Same way, if you want to go maximize the benefits of your transformation, external people have the capability to teach you. And I didn't have a good analogy for the race car of this, but the other component that you have to consider is you still have a business to run as well. There's a BAU, you have to service all your existing clients. Suddenly you put this extra ask in of doing a transformation. External support can also help make sure that you're getting those acute demand spikes accounted for. Lastly, let's say you get this car. First couple times, I've been coached, it's going pretty well. But after every time I go, I just throw it back into the garage, leave it there, dust accumulates, I don't have oil changes. If I don't actually look at how I establish my proper governance and controls, how I'm going to maintain this car, you're going to quickly diminish the benefits that you had in the beginning because you're not managing to maintain the car, maintain your system in the way that's going to allow you to continue to realize those benefits over time. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of a double click into all three of those areas and really talk about what this looks like when we try and bring that to life in the context of the transformation. So when we look at aligning the people and process, we're going to anchor first to really speed to market because that's where the people and process really provide the value. The tech is going to give you the sophistication. We know Earnix is going to give you a level of sophistication, but you can build the best, most sophisticated model in the world. It's relatively useless when you don't have a way to actually deploy that model into a production environment where you actually are able to influence the price and the customer behavior. So when we look at how we actually are going to change in the future, we know that we need to anchor to how we're actually going to get that speed to market benefit for all the sophistication that we want to bring in. Today, most of you, if you're not on Earnix, you probably have a bunch of different systems. They don't really talk to each other. You manually move things around. You're doing two-way, three-way reconciliations to make sure that all of those pieces of information somehow tie back together at the end. It's been a process like that way for years. When you move to a tool like Earnix, you no longer have to do that. That is really one of the major benefit drivers of how you achieve that speed to market. This, and I can tell you this from experience, this is a hard thing for people to conceptualize. It is really hard for the IT, the rating teams to fully get that. And we have to be prepared that the roles of what they do today is not going to be the roles that they do in the future. One of the things that you always should be looking for when you are in the midst of a transformation is when you hear a challenge, this is how we do things today. And you ask why. It's because it's the way it is. That should be a red flag to say, well, we need to reassess this then. If you don't understand the why, if you don't understand what the objective of a process is, that process really should be challenged and changed. The last thing, and this is a very important part, is getting full buy-in. Most of the people that I've talked to here are usually actuaries. They're in the pricing space. They're bought in for a transformation. Great. If your IT, if your rating, if your data teams are not on board and bought in for this transformation, you're not going to have that boat with everyone paddling in the same direction. That's going to slow you down. You know, if we think about the F1 car, if I don't have all my wheels going in the right direction, I'm not going to go very fast. So making sure that you actually, and this honestly is one of the biggest challenges, because when we couple that with the fact that roles are changing, responsibilities are going to change, there is a mindset shift. This is a challenging conversation that you need to have, but the more that you get that collective buy-in, especially from the top down, of what the goals are, what you're trying to anchor to, that's where you can really start to align the people in the process to fully enable your pit crew to enable that pricing team for change. All right. So looking at how you want to leverage and accelerate value. Now, is this somewhat self-serving? Oh, so was that a hand?
Yeah, just go back to aligning rules that don't exist today. I think this is a sensitive topic that kind of comes up for people that go on this journey. Any kind of insights on how you've successfully done this? Any kind of insights that you could share?
Yes. I'm going to talk about that on the next slide.
Okay.
But sorry, yeah. The question was on the roles. Yeah. We don't have mic runners today. No. Okay. The question was around when you talk about the roles changing, when you talk about the people component, it's a challenging conversation. What recommendations and experience can I talk about of how you're able to facilitate that? And that's where we talk a little bit. We are gonna get to it, but I'll kind of preview it. On leveraging the external support, external parties have the ability to effectively be more like of a mediator, and they're bringing in an unbiased perspective that they provide an industry standard of what needs to happen, which hopefully helps reduce some of the emotional attachment that people might have to the way things are today. But backing up at the more macro level, on that external support. Is talking about external support sound self-serving? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's literally what my career is providing support to clients. And most actuarial teams, and probably most of you would all say, I can do this myself. I can do the transformation myself. And I actually don't disagree. You probably all could. But how many of you guys saw the second presentation today? Oh God, the company's name is escaping me. The Polish company. Unica, yeah. When you guys saw Unica, and he was talking about trying to get buy-in and investment for additional FTEs, and he's getting the pushback, the challenge, right? When we talk about how you actually can go and gain investment from your stakeholders, what they want to see is provable benefits realization. When we talk about what external parties can do, one of the major elements of what they do is they provide certainty, they provide the ability to accelerate that benefits realization. If you get the investment to do a transformation, the sooner that you can start to demonstrate and show that value, you build that confidence for continued investment, whether that's FTEs, more funding, more projects. That's an important part. So can you do some of this transformation yourself? Yes. But in doing it yourself, does that diminish your ability to deliver on your current state? Probably, because you're not going to put enough people onto the project to deliver that project at the speed in which the the tie back to the benefits that paid out aren't being realized. So number one, your business needs to continue to run. Number two, external parties can bring in those best practices. Similar to a coach or any sort of like trainers that you bring in. They know what they're doing. They've done this before. You can, as I said, you can do this yourself and you will figure it out. And you know, Kevin talked about how failure and iteration is an important piece. It is. And if you want to go maximize failure and iteration as your success criteria, go for it. But I'm not sure that that's the most effective way to actually get success. That's more of a way that you've, mitigate the failures is through that iteration. The other piece that we look at is increasing your outcome certainty with an external party. You're doing it yourself, your downside of failure is relatively minimal. You push a project out by a month. You go ask for additional funding. That's annoying, that's fine, failure is minimal. But when you actually go and contract this service out, it's like buying an insurance policy. Through external parties, and ones that you should be working with, should be on an outcome-based contract. Say, I need this benefit, this delivery by this point in time, not on a time and material. So that in exchange for the premium that you are paying for those services, you are able to maximize how that benefits will be realized. Being able to hit those outcomes, being able to hit them faster than you would have on your own, with more certainty and with more confidence, is how you get the leadership buy-in to actually continue to get more investment for further transformation, further innovation, while continuing to run your BAU. All right, lastly, establishing proper governance. I'm going to move off of F1 for a sec, but looking around, how many of you guys would have remembered, you go home, turn on your parents' computer, maybe the first time you turned on, they open up, whatever it was, Netscape or whatever, and it's going all right. But then you go back, it's taking forever to open. When it finally opens, half the screen is all those stupid banner ads because your parents have clicked yes to everything that showed up, and now the computer is going so slowly, right? When we look at the importance of establishing proper governance, if you put governance in place of your parents to say, don't download these things, don't say yes to these random scripts, that computer is going to continue to run at a pace that it would have when you bought it. Similar to Earnix, that's an important aspect that it'll give you immediate benefits day one. We can stand up the people and the processes that's going to also enable that benefit realization day one. But if we don't actually maintain the governance and controls in place to continue for it to do well, you will see diminished benefits realization. People will build things in a way that's not conformant. They'll build things in a way that doesn't have scalability, and you'll quickly lose the value that you have. So how do we achieve proper governance? Number one, Earnix is a platform. And what did I mean by that? We need to view it and be treated as that. You should be looking at having platform owners, product owners that are empowered with the ability to say yes, no, and enforce the standards that you want to have to maintain that product. These need to be people that also have the ability to prioritize the pipeline, to understand what is going to happen, what isn't going to happen, making sure that there's that continuous improvement and innovation pipeline. If anyone comes from an IT background, this probably is pretty table stakes. You get this. But when we look at this from a non-IT background, this actually can be a different concept. That's a very important aspect of how we incorporate the effective governance. The second piece is that for them to enforce standards, standards are needed. Standards, in some ways, are restrictions, but they're also repeatable patterns that we know are going to allow for something to exist in the way and shape that it should in the future. When we look at things like how you set up your project structure in Earnix, what type of automation modules we use, we're looking to reduce things like duplication. We're looking to use patterns that can be reused and repeatable and are adaptable so that you don't have to keep adding components and add complexity. This is how you're going to maintain those long-term benefits, maintain those standards and practices, and enable and enforce those standards to the individuals. For the IT people, they get this, right? This is something that this is one of those areas where IT can really help provide those pricing teams that support that ability of how to stand up, define, and enforce those standards, things like code review and abilities to actually assess that those are being aligned to. Lastly, using these supports and governance mechanisms is a way that you also can support regulations. I'm not going to claim to be a regulatory expert globally, maybe in Canada, even then I wouldn't call myself a regulatory expert. But one of the things that the regulators, certainly in Canada, and I would assume globally, care about is when it comes to pricing, is there fairness? Is there transparency? Is there effective controls and distribution of duty for how how the rates get into production and how the pricing is approved to make sure that fairness and transparency existed in the system? Using a tool like Earnix actually has the frameworks and guardrails that you can build into that to make sure that you can demonstrate to regulators that you have those standards, that you have those controls in place, which is going to help build that confidence. And that helps you, again, move faster because you know that the system already has the mechanisms built in, that you don't need to have the external mechanisms, meetings, governance structures in place to have those controls. So look into why this is so critical, why it's important to get it right. Technology change, you're going to move forward. We know that. You buy a tool like Earnix, you're going to go faster. There's going to be benefits unequivocally. And if that's where you stop, fine. You are going to get return on that investment. If we want to actually get further change, that organizational change, the people, the process that we look at building out, you're going to get more benefits out of that investment. You're going to be looking to actually get some of the controls that are reusable. But when we look at actually taking this as a holistic program approach, we look at all the interactions of the people, of the process. We look at how this technology needs to be stood up, maintained, governed over the long period of time. We view this as a complete change in how we're going to operate our day-to-day. That's transformational change. That's the impactful change you want to make. And that's how you actually maximize the benefits of the investment that you're making in this program. Awesome. So no fancy pictures. No, I'm not an astronaut, but hopefully that was hopefully that was insightful. Again, open to any questions. I've got 8 minutes of time left. I'm not going to just stand here if I don't need to. But any questions from the audience?
Would you say that when it's your first pillar about the people, would you say that actually will get less involved in implementation stuff, or they still need to be involved in the implementation process?
Question was, on the people and process, do actuaries get involved in the implementation, or are they less involved in that process? That was it? Yeah. In my view, the actuaries should be involved. I think it's important for them to be involved. If I look at this from the lens of just agnostically of a transformation, technology transformation, having the end users be involved in the development of that system is how you build those platform champions that are the ones that understand how it was built end-to-end. They're able to train the next people. They're able to also make sure that they understand those decisions that were made, why they were made, and they can help build and maintain the standards and help the other teams that are being onboarded of how they're going to enable, how they're fully going to utilize that tool. Answer your question? Awesome. All right. Thank you.